Hello and welcome to the Creative Lotus Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Zaki. Hello, everyone. My name is Alan Zaki. I am the host of the Creative Lotus Podcast. This is episode 1. Yes, we are officially here. I am so excited to start this podcast off, give a little background about myself, as well as why Creative Lotus. And let's dive right in. So my name is Alan Zaki. I am a freelance photographer here in Los Angeles, California. I've been living here for about 13 years. I consider LA my home. I'm originally a NorCal boy, born and raised in Sacramento, California, but have been down here and absolutely love it. You got the beach, you got the mountains, you have the city life. It's amazing. I enjoy every aspect of it. So in 2014, I was very fortunate to go on an amazing trip over to Australia and New Zealand. And I took a camera with me and wanted to, of course, document the entire trip as best I could. And so on that trip, I got an SLR camera, which is a single lens reflex for those techie nerds out there that don't know / do know what an SLR is, and was able to capture about 20 plus rolls of 35 millimeter film of our amazing trip, and was so inspired and in awe when I got the film back coming back to California that I wanted to learn more about what it really meant to be a photographer and learn more about the craft. And so I started taking black and white photography courses and really started to learn what it meant to expose light on the film and to go into the dark room. And the magic of actually developing a photograph in the dark room is just something that you have to experience for yourself to really understand. It's such an incredible way of learning photography and really seeing like your efforts come to life in this tray on the piece of paper once it's burned into the emulsion. So that was really the first beginning point of my now career. And at that time, I actually had someone explained actually in our class that if you really want to take yourself seriously and learn the best of the best on how to become a photographer, you really got to check out this school down in Santa Barbara named Brooks Institute of Photography. And at that point, I think the school had been around for about 40 plus years, and had, amazing commercial photographers and artists come out of that school. And so the first thing I did was hit up my cousin and said, that summer, it was, summer break of high school, let's go down to Santa Barbara and go check out this amazing school. And, my cousin had been at UCSB and graduated from there. And so he knew kind of all the cool places to check out. And so, we took a road trip and went down to Santa Barbara and got to experience what it was like living the Santa Barbara lifestyle for a weekend, and checked out the beautiful campus in Montecito, as well as, the other campuses in and around Santa Barbara. And it was incredible. I was hooked, and I really wanted to get into the school. And so I came back home and spoke with my mom about it and was like, I got to go to this place. There's nothing more that I want than to, be this amazing commercial photographer. And at that time, I was really inspired by the likes of David LaChapelle and Annie Leibovitz and, the greats, if you will, of photography. And so I just kept on shooting. I was the kid that was like, I'm going to shoot, headshots or, senior portraits of all my friends. And I'm going to photograph every event that we have at our school for the yearbook or the newspaper or whatever it was. I was like the stereotypically nerdy kind of camera hanging around my neck student. But I loved it. It was a new creative form for me to really express who I was, and also be able to really talk to people, and learn kind of what their story was as well. Granted, yes, a lot of the people I knew because they were in high school with me, but it was definitely a great experience to be able to, capture their likeness and also make people happy, with seeing their image come to life. So yeah, it was pretty exact it's pretty amazing, as I could say. And so yeah, I actually graduated from high school and was accepted to Brooks Institute and made my way down to Santa Barbara. And that was the beginning of 3 amazing accelerated full years of college. And the sad thing is, I don't think I really enjoyed Santa Barbara to the best of its experience, because the school was year round. And so I knew my mom was obviously paying a lot of money for this education. So there was no way I was able to really slip up and not make the best of it. And so I was a very diligent student and, really didn't go party. I wasn't out in Isla Vista or Ivy and getting, wasted. But I definitely had a good time and made some incredible friends. And 6 months before I was to graduate, 2007, I went and made this crazy decision that either I wanted to live in LA or New York, because those were like the two hubs of where commercial and also fashion, lifestyle, photography were at, and even celebrity portraiture for that matter, which I was really into. And so I was like, listen, I cannot do a freezing ass summer. I'm sorry, freezing ass winter in New York City. So LA it is. And so 6 months before graduation, I moved down here on a whim, moved to downtown LA, and moved in with, a former graduate as well of Brooks. And, I thought I was living the high life. And little did I know it was nothing like New York City, which I thought it was going to be like. The joke was on me for sure. And yeah, I had this amazing space though. It was like a loft with a huge open studio space. So I was able to do all my assignment work, as well as, start bringing in some commercial clients shooting fashion stuff in the space. And, bought all this gear and, thought I was like so great. And then little did I know that by the end of 2007 going into 2008, the economy was about to completely tank. And so by the time I graduated, no one was really working and no one was hiring, frivolous photographers. But I didn't really care. I really just kind of hunkered down with my credit card and kept on, keeping on, and did my best to make ends meet. Was shooting here and there wherever I could. A bunch of friends came down from Santa Barbara after we graduated, and we're kind of like this little crew of folks. But I was definitely, in kind of a bad space in my head, and really, now we call it mental health, and I'm sure it was called that then, but I didn't know it, and was really kind of in a depressed state because living in downtown LA was not so fabulous as it is now in 2021. But it was everything shut down at like 5 p.m. It was a fashion district. The homeless would come out and start lighting trash cans on fire. And, there wasn't really a whole lot to do. There was not very many bars and restaurants or, you know, active things to do in downtown LA. And majority of my friends lived, either in Hollywood or West Hollywood or, whereabouts. And so it was literally just me and my roommate. And she decided to leave after 3 months. She found a dude that she had to go and see and visit and was like, I gotta go. And she bounced. And so then I was like, SOL, and was like, what the hell am I going to do now? I have this huge ass space. I need a roommate. And so I was able to find a roommate all of a sudden. It was actually a makeup artist I had worked with. And yeah, we hit it off really well, and it was great. She moved in really quickly, and we kept on going. There was a lot of troubles and problems that obviously I think came along with that, because I really didn't know who this woman was. But you know, it was a lot of time. There was a lot of times that were a lot of fun, and there was times that I kind of, you know, was not the greatest of times, but that's okay. And yeah, just kept on moving forward. And by the end of about 2 months before our lease was up, I think I had kind of had it. I was done with LA and the experiences, and really wanted something new. And so I had planned to move to New York City. I was like, I want to be a fashion photographer. I'm going to do everything I can. And that includes moving across the country to New York City so I can like really get into fashion. And my friends were so mad here in LA. We're like, no, you're not. You can't leave us. And I was like, leave you? Where have you been? None of you will come and see me in downtown LA. I feel like I'm so on my own. But a friend of mine named Joseph was like, dude, you can't leave. Come and live with me in West Hollywood. Let's get out of downtown. And so I took him up on the deal and we moved to West Hollywood. And as a young gay, male, the West Hollywood is like the place to be. And boy, oh boy, did we get ourselves into trouble and a lot of other crazy times. But yeah, it was amazing. We got this cool 2-bedroom space in like the roundabout or the pivot, if you will, of Santa Monica Boulevard, right on Olive and Fountain. Take Fountain to everything. Yeah, and we were right there in the epicenter of it all, and man, I had so many memories there, a lot of really great memories. And yeah, I was shooting a ton of fashion at that point. Things had started to kind of come around in the sense of economy, and made a ton of connections, and learned, or introduced myself to a bunch of new creatives, both hair, makeup, wardrobe, styling, all the things, and was really kind of on this new path. But then um a ton of events happened and my roommates were like, deuces, we gotta go. And so I was like, what the hell am I gonna do? And so I called my mom, and was like, Mom, I really just can't even deal, and was in tears and didn't know what to do. I had only had roommates for the majority of my adult life at that point. And so she said, like, you know what, Alan, get your shit together and find yourself a single bedroom place that you don't have to deal with roommates. And I will help you get your shit together financially. But, you gotta keep on keeping on and move forward. So that's exactly what I did. I found a place over in Franklin Village, by the Hollywood sign, which is incredible, and have been here ever since, really. And yeah, I got it together and was able to kind of take the dirty muck of the situation that was in West Hollywood and turned it around, and made this incredible opportunity happen. So yeah, that's a little background. And after that, I kind of had to get a job. I can no longer live on credit cards. And so I started working in the production industry, which was a lot of fun. And I thought I wanted to become a producer. So I kind of put down photography for a while and worked my way up from like the most basic bitch PA. But it was making decent money, which I was happy to be making. And I got to travel. I got to, go on these cool jobs that were, all over the states, and working with celebrities and big name photographers and big projects that were for advertising and catalogs, and really kind of honing my craft. And it actually gave me a huge respect and understanding of what it takes to actually be in charge of such a large production, which I'd never really experienced before. And met some amazing people. Actually, one of the creatives that I collaborate with all the time now, we actually met through production, actually a few of them. And they'll be on the podcast in future episodes. And yeah, it was really kind of like my growing point at that point, because I had kind of been in delusion for so long, thinking that, what I was doing here in LA shooting was like, I'm the shit. But, little did I know that like everything was so much bigger than what I had really known. And I think all of us go through that, right? It's kind of like you have to grow up and realize that there's such a larger scale world out there in your industry than probably you give yourself knowledge or credit for. So yes. So then, after production, I, kind of worked my way up. And at that time, I was like a junior producer and also production coordinating. But I realized that so many of these photographers that we were, producing for really just didn't know what the hell they were doing. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but, there's a lot of photographers that are great at business and, have a decent portfolio and are good at, conversing, which is amazing. And so they were shooting these jobs, but, it was really their assistants and the people around them that, did the majority of the work. And so I'd kind of gotten fed up and was really stressed out doing the production work. And so I was like, F it. I am going to start shooting again. I got to get back into this. And so it was like starting from nothing. It was like planting a seed and being like, okay, we're going to start all over. I had lost all the contacts at modeling agencies. I had lost a lot of the clients that I was shooting for previously. So it was starting anew and making, the best of it. And so started reaching out to people and new creatives and hair and makeup and styling and trying to find new clients and really starting to build a portfolio of new work. And so it was a good time. It was something creative to do and really got my juices flowing to want to like create beauty images and fashion images and new portraits and kind of using my knowledge that I had really gained from the level of production value necessary in my photography work to really amp up my production level of the stuff that I was creating. And it was all because of the production, that I had been working on for so long. That was like 4 years of my life that I am so thankful for. So yeah, it was kind of fun. But 2016, while I was still doing production, I was still shooting at the same time, trying to fit in as much as I could. I had at that point had just turned 30, and I thought my life was just going to be so great. And all my friends were turning 30 as well, and we're going to have all these parties and just the best year ever. But like from day one of that year, it was like wrong. It is not, do not pass go, do not collect $200, was kind of the sign of 2016 for me. And so man, I hit every bump in the road from January to about August. And then in August, I was like staying late in an office that I was working on production for. And one of the agents that was working at this agency was, she brought up Buddhism. And actually, I don't even know how she brought it up. To be honest, like thinking back, I probably should ask her. But I just was like, it piqued my interest because, you hear a lot of people talk about spirituality and talk about other forms of yoga or how they're, cleared the mind or, all these things. But she was like, oh, I'm, a Nichiren Buddhist with the SGI USA. And backstory, like rewind way back, I was actually born into this Nichiren Buddhist practice with the SGI USA, both my parents practice. And so, I knew about it, but I had not been really practicing it for many, many years, all through college and into my years in LA. And so when she said that, I was like, wait, what? I was like, oh, wow, that's okay. I hear you. I see you. And so she saw my reaction and was like, why did you react that way? And I was like, well, actually, technically, I am a Nichiren Buddhist because my family practices and so did I for so long. And so she was like ecstatic and was like, oh my gosh, you have to come and, you know, learn more about it. And, I want to connect you with like a neighborhood like meeting. And, I was like, I was hesitant to say the least, but, in this Buddhist practice of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, I was really able to like to tap into rather like the real depths of who I was and really see the problems and the struggles that I was going through for that entire year as actually like the opportunity to really transform who I was at like the base core of like who I am, if that makes sense. And so yeah, I went to that meeting that she invited me to, and hearing people share their experiences of overcoming such struggles, way bigger than mine. Mine were like financial and um, friendship problems, and really just self-doubt and, not being able to really make money the way that I wanted to. Those were my problems. But these people are talking about how they've overcome cancer and how they've been able to completely transform their life, and, were, a raging alcoholic and have been able to, overcome this inability to see themselves as who they really are, and so hearing these stories and experiences really kind of opened my eyes to how powerful this practice is, but ultimately how precious each and every single one of our lives are, right? And so the concept in this Buddhism is actually that every single one of us actually has this Buddhahood within inside of us, but it's just a matter of us each like awakening to it. And, I think a lot of people are like, oh, Buddhism, that's like far off in like the Tibetan, Alps or something. That's not even the same place. My bad. But, in like, getting rid of everything in your mind and just letting, releasing yourself in the sense of quiet. But no, Buddhism actually is about awakening to your greatest potential and your greatest self through you absolutely becoming absolutely happy. And we do that through chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, but also helping others to become absolutely happy as a part of this process. And so since 2016, it's really kind of been my mission through my photography to really help others to become absolutely happy. And there's this term, it's Japanese, but it's kosen rufu, which actually like means to like kind of propagate widely, but also like and help others to become happy. But it also means kind of world peace is like the simple layman's terms of it. Um, but world peace is only achieved actually through each individual becoming happy and also like doing their human revolution, right? Or inner transformation, that if I change, the world will change. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy or like, oh yeah, right, Alan, okay, yeah, if I change, the world will change. But ultimately, right, it's like a dewdrop, or not even a dewdrop, a drop of water being dropped into an open water, like let's say a pond, right? And that ripple effect of change ultimately change the entire, surrounding area. And so in that same regard, that if each of us does this human revolution or inner transformation, each of us becomes happy, right? And that effect will ultimately affect the rest of the world and our lives, and it just takes one person after another to make this happen. And so yeah, getting back on point, in 2016, I really, figured this out for myself. And 2017 started to become a better year. And I was able to really start shooting again and getting, more creative jobs and kind of building this new portfolio of work. And my eye, of course, has changed as well. And the way I shoot and the style I was shooting in, and not being as influenced by photographers that I looked up to per se. And, yeah, in 2018, in our Buddhist organization, we had this amazing youth festival called 50 50,000 Lions of Justice. Can't talk. Um, and I made this determination to myself that like 2018 was going to be the year that I like take the jump off the cliff and know that I have the wings to fly, and really taking the risk on myself in my career. So I really set out to, no longer do production and to really make it the best I could just by doing photography. And so I did just that. And it was incredible because I was able to really make some of the best work I had probably created up until that point, and was making such incredible connections with new people and new creatives, and really felt the sense of like absolute happiness in my life. And that was kind of a huge thing for me. It was a feeling of joy that I really hadn't felt in so long. And so, yeah, I really wanted to make this podcast. We're just going to jump ahead because after 2020 and the COVID-19 crazy pandemic that all of us went through, I felt as though, the creative industry is going through so much of a change, right? But I think that the stories of people to persevere and to bring hope, um, through that struggle is actually what it's about, which is why this podcast is called the Creative Lotus podcast, is because the lotus is actually has this ability to simultaneously bloom and also seed at the same time. But, you know, without that mud and muck and or struggle, right, we cannot bloom or become successful and absolutely happy. And so, you know, in Buddhist terms, it's called cause and effect. You know, for every cause you're making, an instantaneous effect is registered in the universe. And so, this podcast is really for those to really share their, you know, their journey and their struggles, but how that they've persevered and had this like never give up spirit to be able to really show that, like, with determination and the ability to keep on pushing forward and having the hope and knowing that they're like going to succeed, that they will really be able to, you know, live the successful but also very happy life that they want to live. Right, and we're all constantly changing and progressing forward on this journey that we call life. But I think that, you know, for myself, I think I want to really be able to share these stories with people because there's so many people whose voices I know should be heard. And so, yeah, I'm so excited to start this podcast off and really help other people to learn about so many amazing stories and people that are out there in our industries. And yeah, really just, you know, have fun and be able to um, create such beauty in this world and create hope. And, you know, for each of us to really become victorious this year of 2021. I know the pandemic is still going on and we're still striving as hard as we can ahead. But, you know, that really is the goal, is to be victorious and also to become more united, I think, as an industry, but also just as a world, right? And each of us really being able to bring out the best of each other. So I'm going to end this episode with an amazing quote from my life's mentor, Daisaku Ikeda. And he says, "Great art is created only through diligent and painstaking effort to perfect and polish ourselves or oneself." So yes, let's really polish ourselves. I know I am doing that daily. And yes, our painstaking efforts will ultimately become our greatest achievements. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Creative Lotus Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Zaki. Please go ahead and subscribe, rate us, and write a review. And follow me at Alan Zaki on social media. I look forward to having more amazing creative dialogues on the next episode.